Debate. Senator Marcus, for what purpose you rise?
To debate the conference report.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, those of you who have decided to remain in the chamber, I appreciate that. I wanted to remind this body that just this year, over the objections of a whole lot of North Carolinians and many of us in this chamber, this body enacted a ban that severely restricts the availability of abortion care in this state. That was a major blow to the rights of pregnant people to control our bodies and protect our lives and our welfare, and it's already having negative impacts on the quality and availability of women's health care here in our state. And it is against that backdrop that this budget is now adding more harm. This budget provides over $20 million of taxpayer money to organizations that exist for the purpose of dissuading, misinforming, and pressuring pregnant people. I noticed that during the very long and thorough presentation of your budget, nobody crowed about these provisions. Maybe that shows that you know that they're not anything to crow about, because these organizations are commonly referred to as crisis pregnancy centers, are not medical clinics, they're not honest advisors of a person's options or the risks and costs associated with continuing a pregnancy versus terminating one, and they do not provide reliable medical advice or even information. Instead, they are often faith-based, sometimes online only, suspicious pop-ups, or out-of-state organizations. They are notorious for lying to people about the risks of abortion, about how many weeks pregnant they are, and pretending to be medically trained providers. It's bad enough that these deceptive organizations are allowed to operate in our state at all. Honestly, if they were any other kind of business, they would have been shut down by now based on how shady they are. It's even worse that these crisis pregnancy centers are funded with taxpayer dollars in excess of $20 million in this budget alone. You've heard me say this every year, because every year you send them money, usually even more than you did the year before. But here's something new. We've taken the time to investigate the 15 CPC organizations that this budget funds. And wow, there are some really suspicious things going on. I want to share those with you. I will preface it by saying, given the very quick turnaround on this budget, we haven't been able to ensure that we have all the relevant information, but I want to share what I've found so far, and I'm hoping you'll decide that the taxpayers of North Carolina deserve more accountability than what you've provided in the past and what you're about to do with this budget. So number one, the largest appropriation goes to the Carolina Pregnancy Care Fellowship. They get a whopping $12.6 million in this budget alone. From what we can tell, this fellowship provides no counseling or direct services of any kind. It's just a pass-through for state money to other crisis pregnancy centers, some of which also already get state grant funding directly. It's registered to a private home owned by the person who is listed as the fellowship state director, who apparently has complete discretion about how to spend the $12.6 million we're giving her, including how much to pay herself. The fellowship has no website or any online presence. There's only one listed employee that we could find, the same director. And so this raises all kinds of questions that I would think you'd be wondering. How much of that money that we're giving her does she just keep for herself? What does she do to earn that taxpayer money? And if her whole purpose is to pass through money to other CPCs, why doesn't this body do that so we can follow the money and know where it's going instead of paying her? Where's the transparency there? And which organizations is she sending the money to? And what did they do with it? Are they legit? And are they doing anything beneficial at all? So we just don't know. Number two, the Green Pregnancy Center gets $500,000 in this budget. From what I can tell, its location is an abandoned storefront. Its only registered agent is a pastor who preaches his support for only traditional marriage. It has only a bare bones website without any links to any resources. It simply encourages people to call their phone number to get advice. Why in the world does it need $500,000? Number 3, the Heartbeats Pregnancy Care Center. It gets $400,000 in this budget. It has different addresses listed in various public records, so it's hard to track down where it is. It appears to be located either in an abandoned field, or in the median of a highway, or in a private home marked with very conspicuous no trespassing signs. This makes me wonder how much good they could possibly be doing with $400,000 of taxpayer money. The Human Coalition, that's number 4, is an overtly faith-based anti-abortion organization based in Texas, but we're giving them $1.5 million in this budget alone. And this is the group that the North Carolina DHHS has advised this body not to invest in because they have failed to provide any kind of evidence that their pilot program provided any net benefit to anyone in North Carolina. Number 5, the Wilson Pregnancy Center is actually, this is interesting, getting double funded in this budget. They get $100,000 directly, as listed in this budget, and they get another $250,000 with an appropriation to the city of Wilson that is earmarked for the Wilson Pregnancy Center. That's despite the fact that the Wilson Pregnancy Center has no website. It has a Facebook page with 0 posts, nothing on it, just a header, and it is apparently not even operating under that name. So where's the accountability for that double giveaway of taxpayer money to that organization? Number 6, the Hope Pregnancy Center of Anson County gets $400,000. It lists a Baptist church as its only location with very little other public information about it. So is the money going to the church? I hope not. I'm not supposed to do that, I don't think. Number 7, this is the last one that I'll give you some details about. There are more, but I'll stop at 7. The Carolina Maternity Home Association gets $1.56 million. It has no website or any dedicated building that we could find. And from what we can tell from searching online, it doesn't offer the public any services. It does, however, have an address, which is a house, which it shares with a separate organization, which has the same principal agent, executive director as the Crisis Pregnancy Center. That same person reportedly was paid $264,000 last year to run that other organization. All these questions say to me, is anyone even checking into these crisis pregnancy centers that we are so eager to give all this taxpayer money to see if they exist? Are they doing any actual good? I'm afraid the answer is no. So, as I said, these are just some of the entities that are getting this $20+ million in this budget. I'll add, in case you don't know, that most crisis pregnancy centers are staffed by volunteers, not paid employees anyway, and CPCs are not providing medical care. Several of these crisis pregnancy centers don't seem to have any location, as I said, or at least not a reputable location. They often have no online presence or a website with only some basic photos and a phone number to call. So to me, the entire section of this budget stinks. It's political favoritism, and it's a total abdication of this legislature's obligation to ensure transparency and accountability when it comes to state funds. This $20.26 million should be going instead to legitimate, evidence-based programs that would help mothers and children with their health care. This is a waste and should never have made it into this budget.